Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. This is your basketball segment. I am your host, Bryan Spencer, and once again, I'm welcomed and joined by Coach Will Witherspoon from Walnut Grove High School here in the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia. Coach, man, it's great to be back in this thing. Um, this is our time of the year, man. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. We got some playoff basketball, and listen, man, it's so much stuff we could talk about. But I want to talk about. We both predicted. We took the Lakers and the Clippers, which it wasn't too tough uh, to get into to figure out. Uh, but interesting series, man. Interesting series. Let's start with the Lakers, man. Let's start with the Lakers in Portland. Um, not a surprise to me that Portland got one. Not a surprise to me some of the things that took place. But the score was a little lower than I thought it was going to be. And then some of the things that took place inside the game, I thought were a little different than I was expecting. So I like to just get some of your takes, man. Some of the things that you took from the game, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, I think down the stretch, the Lakers they looked a little fatigued. I think that when you look at the level of urgency from both teams, I definitely feel like Portland was playing. Seemed like they had a little bit more urgency
Right,
with the intensity and the way that they were playing. And I think part of that is, since they arrived in the bubble, they've been in playoff mode. They've had to win pretty much every game, and I think they're like
right,
9-2 or something
right,
something like that. Uh,
right.
so they've been in playoff mode essentially since they've been there, and the Lakers only need to win 2 games to secure that number one seed, which doesn't mean a lot, in a bubble type setting. But I think that the level of urgency just last night. I mean, it was pretty apparent that Portland wanted that game, a lot more than the Lakers did.
So let's talk about that, man, because like you said, Portland looked like they was urgent. Dame was definitely on his thing. And LeBron, man, I mean, LeBron was LeBron. But you know, I've always said that I felt like that squad that they have is kind of overhyped, in my opinion. Um, I really think when LeBron got to get some of them old Cleveland numbers, man. Like he gonna have to get 45 a night. It's obvious that Portland cannot stop him from getting to the basket. They can't do it. It's obvious that they can't do it. And I think, man, he got to put the pedal to the metal. He can't take his foot off the gas. He got to go get 50
I,
and make them. I don't see them. I don't see. Let me ask you this: because 80 had what he had, 20 something, but he had a lot of dunks.
mhm.
You know, no, he's not gonna just get a whole bunch of dunks every game.
Well, he started with a guy who got his first playoff start because Zach Collins was hurt, and
Right,
I think he kind of set the tone. Like his first shot, they went to him the first possession, and his first
right,
shot was like a fadeaway jumper.
right,
And AD to me is a lot more effective. When he's closer to the basket. Like I think that his versatility allows him to be able to step out and shoot jumpers. But I don't want my top 5 player 7-footer standing around shooting jumpers. But when you look at LeBron and the personnel that you put around him to make him successful, I mean that's typically what he has. He'll
right.
have one guy on the inside to bang. But the other 3 guys are shooters, and they were
Right,
atrocious from the 3 point
right,
last night. I think KCP went 0 for 9, I think, and 0
right,
for 5 from 3. I mean that just and I'm not blaming the role guys. I think that your stars should carry you home. I think with 7 minutes to go, They either had the lead or the game was tied, and that's the time when your stars are supposed to bring you home. And you look, Dame was phenomenal down the stretch. You
So
know,
let's go back. I want to stay with that point though. You talking about AD? I want to stay with that, man, and because I watched I watched Philly the other night.
okay,
Embiid, same thing. Now it's a 4 point game, right? It's a
mhm,
4 point game. You're talking about the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. 4 point, 6 point game. Embiid is getting no touches in the paint. He's out at the 3 point line, picking and popping and all of that. And then when there's 16 seconds left to go in the game, you're down by 6, and you got to hit two threes, and Embiid gets a 3 pointer.
right.
Like I don't understand that. And I kind of see AD, the use of him in the same vein. Like, why are these guys, the versatility of being able to play on the perimeter is great. That's great. But they got to establish themselves on the inside. AD, in my opinion, has got to establish his presence on the inside of the in the paint, and then the ability to step out. That just is extra.
Exactly.
But there's too much of this. Everybody wants to be the pick and pop guy, and nobody wants to dominate in the lane and get those tough points. Explain that to me as a coach. Explain that to me.
Well, here recently, I haven't had a player over 6'2" on my roster, so I would be the wrong one to give advice about that. But I mean, you look at the Lakers. You got the Dwight Howard, you got JaVale McGee, you got AD, you got plenty of size, and I think honestly, I think part of that is the issue. I think because AD is so versatile, you know, Embiid, I'm sorry, not Embiid, but McGee and Dwight Howard, they can't step out and shoot jumpers, or at least
Right,
that's not where you want them. So
right,
that's one person down in the paint. You got you. While LeBron is a much improved shooter, he's a lot more effective driving to the hole. So that's another person that needs to be down there. So can't have AD down there on the other side too. It's nowhere to go. So his versatility is both um, a gift and a curse. But I think that um, when they stagger their minutes, when LeBron goes to the bench and they run everything through AD, he's got to be a lot more aggressive offensively, not even to get shots off, but to get to the basket. I just he's one of the few players that when he decides that he wants to be unguardable, he's one of the ones who can really do it. There are
right,
only a handful of guys that that have that extra gear that they can go to.
right,
I think he's one of those people because of his versatility. But
right.
in that same breath, last night I felt like they needed him to be a little bit more aggressive,
Mhm.
and for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the play calls or I don't know if it was
Right.
he felt like he needed to get everybody else involved. Your stars are supposed to take you home down the
The
stretch.
time of the year. It's
Yeah,
that time of the year, man. I
this
mean,
is what they pay you all that money for.
that's what they pay it for. And before we had the stoppage of play before the pandemic situation, we did a show, and one of the things that I talked about with the Lakers was we don't know about AD in the playoffs. We're really not sure now. On paper and everything, it all looks good, but we're really not sure. And I'm not trying to put the blame on AD because I mean he had decent numbers, but when you look at uh, Dame, he did what they paid him to do. You know, LeBron. LeBron was nice, but like I said, I don't think he did what they paid him to do. Like they paid LeBron to dominate, and
Well,
I think he got to get 45, man. And I think AD got to get mid 30s
well,
every
Spence,
game.
he's you know 35. He's 35 years old, and he's been in the league 17 years. I mean, that's a long time. That's a lot of wear and tear. And I'm not saying that he's not capable of doing it because he's very well, and I expect
He
him
looked fresh though. He
to.
looked good.
I expect him game 2 to come out like a gangbuster, and I expect him to make the necessary adjustments. But in that same breath, I'm not sure that I don't know if he can ramp it up like that every game. I definitely think that that's what it's going to take. You look at the body of work from some of those other guys, and maybe they're supposed to have Rondo back game 2, so maybe
Right,
that helps a little bit as far as
right,
perimeter defense. I mean,
right.
he's not a great shooter, so that won't solve that problem. But that's a lot of wear and tear on your body, man. And
And the deeper that series goes, I think the more trouble the Lakers are in because of that reason that you're talking about.
well,
But
they
let's
they
talk
better,
about real quick. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, they better the Lakers better win game 2. They
Yes,
better
sir.
win game 2 because they are not beating them 4 out of 5 times. I'm gonna say that right now.
Right.
They need to. If there's ever a must win situation, this is it. This next one, they need to win this one if they want to advance in this series.
So let's talk about Portland, man, real quick. Dame, man, like the shots that he's taking, not just taking, he's making. They put up a thing, man. He's over 30 feet, like he's like 42, 43%. I mean, that's unheard of, man. That's unheard of. And um, it's not like they're forced shots. He's coming off the screens, and typically you set a pick and roll that high, you know, you just go under it and whatever, sag off and go under it. But you do that with him, now he gonna pull the trigger. So now you're asking somebody to guard him 35 feet from the basket, or you're asking the big to switch out on him 35 feet from the basket. Like that's a problem. What adjustment do you think the Lakers have got to make? Because I'm not gonna change that. Like I'm not. If I'm Portland, man, that's the formula. So what adjustment do you think the Lakers got to make defensively to kind of combat that?
I think, and you saw it at times, and I'm not quite sure why they didn't stick with it, but I think they're going to start to. I think Dame's going to get a heavy dose of ice in the ball screen, and I think they're going to turn him into a passer and make that big, or whoever that screener is. They're going to turn him into, the person that needs to beat you.
Okay, so now if you do that, coach, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna center the ball in the middle of the floor, and I'm gonna go with a flat ball screen. Now what you gonna do?
Well, I think you got to pick your poison because do you want Dame doing what he's shown you that he's capable of doing? Because with the flat, I double it. I would double it. You have to. He's shown you, and there are countless clips in the bubble. He's shown you that you let him get it off clean. I mean, he's gonna burn you, and I mean he's doing it from half court, literally
Mm-hmm.
from half court. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Now, if you double me, coach, I'm hitting Melo, I'm hitting McCollum. I mean,
I,
and Grant starting to hit shots. I mean,
I think that's what you choose, and
right,
I think you remain disciplined because especially down the stretch, Dame he's really going to start to assert himself, and I think he'll remain patient, and then he might try to force the issue down the stretch because that's his time. That's when they really look for him, and I think you have to remain disciplined to the game plan. But I wouldn't allow him to beat me. It's the
okay. So
same
you're
thing.
going so you're gonna double him and live with the result.
I am. I am.
Okay,
I
as
think
opposed to as opposed to let him go for 60 and shut everybody else down.
I he has shown you that he can do that. I mean, none
Right,
of the other ones they've done it in stretches, but Dame has shown you that he can do it over a sustained period of time. I mean, he's done this now since they arrived at the bubble. I mean,
right,
he had 40, 50, he put up 60, one game.
right,
And, I'm not allowing him to beat me. I mean, I
right,
know that he's capable of doing that, so I'm not even going to give him that opportunity. You
right,
gotta you gotta beat me a different way. You're
right.
not beating me.
Okay. Well, man, it's gonna be interesting to see how this thing plays out. I think you're definitely correct when you say Game 2 is a must-win for the Lakers. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out, man. But let's switch gears, man, and go to which I think is another interesting series, the Clippers and Dallas. You know, I've said all along that Dallas is not a team that you really want to see in the first round, and then especially having come off of this long downtime, you know, I think it makes them even more dangerous because you may not be as sharp on your game, and that can make them much more effective, man. Let's talk about that series, Dallas and the Clippers. Very interesting game. Dallas came up short, but they showed themselves well. And if Porzingis shows a little more, I mean, questionable. But once you get one tech, man, you can't even involve yourself in anything. So if because Porzingis had what 14 points in 20 minutes,
Mhm.
14.6 boards, something like that in 20 minutes to play, you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
and you combine that with him and Luca, you know, if you have that for the duration of the game, you know, that's going to be a tough thing to stop. So
well,
talk to me about that game, man, and what really takes from that game.
up until that point, they were winning, and they had, for the majority, they had held the lead, up until that ejection. So
Right.
I think that the ejection had a huge impact, on game one. Shout out to Luca, man. Holy cow! I mean, 21 years old, and I mean he is incredible. I mean he is he is incredible, and I mean his ability to make shots. He had a play early where he pro hopped off 2 feet and avoided
Yes,
the
sir.
and made
Yes,
a
sir.
cross court pass to the corner. And I mean, when you watch the replay in slow motion, he never even looked at his teammate. Like I don't even know when he picked his head up to see him over there. But I mean, he's so much more advanced than most kids at that age. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm uber impressed with you know with what he's been able to do, and sky's the limit for him, man. I mean, my goodness. But he's got a very good. I love the pieces that they put around him.
Right.
You got quality shooting.
Right.
Everywhere.
Right.
Porzingis can step out and shoot. They got hustle
Right.
guys. They can defend. Uh,
Right.
I think they're probably a year away from being serious contenders. But I really like what they have going on right now, and I think that this series it'll be one of those where the Clippers can't fall asleep or they can't coast.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
gonna have to beat them. They're not gonna they their ability to score the ball is gonna keep them in most games. And I mean
Right.
can they can beat you in a lot of different ways.
I'm gonna tell you, man. Um, I think they're a serious contender now, and I'm gonna tell you why, man. I believe that because what I'm about to say, man. It's probably gonna sound crazy, man. But and that, because to be honest with you, that's really the first time that I really watched him for a whole game.
Mhm.
And man, they have no answers for him. Like it's like they're gonna have to double him too. I think. Like I think the same philosophy that you said with Dame. He shoots the three, can shoot it from deep. Strong going to the basket, can finish. Great passer. I mean, and he's physical. You know, handles the ball well, has a nice handle. I mean, he's not a LeBron James because of the speed wise, but in terms of of his versatility and all the different things that he can do, man, he's just to me, he's he's like a LeBron without the speed, but a much better shooter.
Yeah,
And to me, that's what makes him more dangerous. You
Yeah.
know, he does it different than LeBron does it. But it's not about how you do it, it's about how effective you are doing what you do. You know, and they don't have anybody that can stop him, man.
Well,
They don't have anybody to stop him. And if you put Kawhi on him, Kawhi can wear himself out.
I,
That's a physical battle that Kawhi gonna wear himself out of.
I think that that's, and we talked about this a couple shows ago. I think that's where the Clippers' depth comes into play because they have so many different people that they can throw on him. And not saying that they're going to stop him. The goal is to slow him down. I think he had. I know in the first
Yeah,
quarter, he had like 6 or 7 turnovers.
yeah, yeah. That's
He
enough.
ended up with like 11 for the game. So I
Right.
mean, in terms of that, I think that's pretty good. If you can force him into double digit, turnovers, I think you're doing something. And
Mm-hmm.
defensively, they averaged, they were close to like 125 in the bubble. So to
Mm-hmm.
keep them in the low 100s, I mean that's a defensively, I think it's kind of a they don't get enough credit for the job, that they did on them. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I love Dallas, man. I've been, I'm much like you. I knew the pieces, but during the bubble restart, I've had an opportunity to watch him, a little bit more. And Luca just, he every time I see him, he does something that impresses me even more. And he's an underrated rebounder. He's
Right.
a phenomenal playmaker. He makes really, really tough shots. They talk about his leadership and what a great leader he's
At
been
that age.
for that crew at 21 years old. So I do believe that if anyone is destined to overachieve, it would be them. I definitely don't think they're going into it, nervous or feeling like they don't have an opportunity to win. I think
Right.
they feel like if Porzingis is healthy,
Come
or
on, man.
not get ejected, they think they probably win that game. So
You think about you lose by 8. You don't have Porzingis for a good portion of the game, and Luke has got 11 turnovers. So in my mind, I'm saying, man, listen, I'm if I go back and we go back and watch this film, and we can eliminate half of those turnovers, man, cut that thing down to 5, and keep Porzingis in the game, for I think most of the guys played about 30 to 35, 36 minutes. So if Porzingis gets another 15 minutes on the court, it takes some pressure off of Luca. It gives him another option. It gives the Clippers something else that they have to worry about because he's just as versatile. You know what I mean? He's just as versatile,
yeah,
and so that what makes Hardaway and Curry so much more valuable. I love Hardaway, man.
yeah.
I love Hardaway, man, and Curry too, man. But I'm a Knicks guy, man, and the Knicks just didn't give Hardaway a chance.
I'm a Michigan guy, so I
Yeah, okay, so yeah,
him and
yeah.
Burke are Michigan guys. So
So
shout out to the Wolverines.
yeah, there you go, there you go. But what adjustments do you think that um, again the Clippers are going to make, even though they won? You know, what adjustments do you think that they're going to make, knowing that they're going to probably have to face Porzingis and Luka together for the duration of the whole game? What type of adjustments, if you're Doc Rivers, are you making to kind of control that thing?
Well, in the playoffs defensively, it's about switching. So I think it's about having the right personnel when they go to that high pick and roll, so that you
Right,
have someone that's capable of guarding Luca or doing a good job of, um, picking him up when they come off that high ball screen. I think
hmm
one of the things that they did early was they were very aggressive with the switch. And they blitzed him, and there was heavy help side, and it was something that kind of forced them into a few early turnovers just because I
hmm
don't I don't think he was expecting it. I don't think they were nearly as aggressive, with those switches that they were in the beginning. And I,
right,
I think that you stick with that aggressive ball switch and just stay up in him. I mean, he's
Okay.
definitely
So
capable.
now, so now I don't want to cut you off, coach. But now, if you're gonna use that strategy, you're gonna go to aggressive ball switch. What I'm gonna do, man, is I'm gonna bring Steph Curry up, or what a matter of fact, whoever Lou Will is guarding, to set the ball screen. And now you're gonna still switch. What are you gonna do now?
Well, I think you do. I think you still aggressively switch. One of the things that you've seen though, when that is something not even new, but just something that I picked up on is so when Lou's man goes to set the screen, he
Mhm.
switches and they
Mhm.
let someone else take
Right,
that guy as he's coming up to set that screen.
right,
So you won't
right,
catch Lou in a ton of
right, right,
in a ton of those ball screens, man.
right,
'Cause he's gonna
right,
pick that guy up in the corner,
right,
or he'll be the guy guarding the ball handler. Typically,
right,
he's not the guy guarding the screener, and they
right. That's
figure
Doc Rivers right there.
yeah they figure out a way to
Yeah,
keep him off of that, so he's not that guy switching onto. So
right. Well, listen, man, it's going to be interesting again, man. Another great series. Let me get a preliminary pick before we get out of here, man. How do you think this series is going to go?
uh, I'm gonna say Clippers in six. I think
Clippers.
that I think Dallas probably gets this next one. And then they'll split the next two, and then the Clippers will go ahead and get they'll go ahead and close it out those 5 and 6. So I'm gonna say Clippers in six.
Well, I'm gonna go just because I like controversy, man. I'm gonna go with the Mavericks in seven.
Oh,
Um, yeah, there's no real home court advantage, so the bubble is the bubble, and it's going to be interesting to see two great series though, Lakers and Portland and Dallas and the Clippers. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Uh, Once again, Coach, appreciate you. Great thoughts. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
uh, no, I just unprecedented times. So who would have thought that in the middle of August we would be talking about playoff NBA playoff basketball, man. I,
Right,
I love it. This is typically, the slow time in the year for sports, where we're gearing up for college football and NFL and things like that. But the NFL has been off. I mean, the NBA has been off for a little bit. So, what a as trying times as these are, what a luxury to be able to escape
right.
and be in some playoff basketball right now, man. I'm loving it.
Yes, sir. Me too, man. Appreciate you once again, Coach. Appreciate you guys for watching us once again this week. This is 100 Yards of Football, your basketball segment. I'm Coach Bryan Spencer, head coach of Carver College in Atlanta, Georgia. Been joined by Coach Will Witherspoon, head coach at Walnut Grove High School. We appreciate you guys for watching the show. If you like the show, please like the video, share the video, and leave your comments. And until next week, remember, life is not important except the impact it has on other people's lives. So go and impact somebody's life in a positive way. Until next